Joining me is Russell Smart, Chairman of the National Scouting Museum Task Force, a portion of the Philmont Ranch Committee. And today we're going to talk about identifying where a unit's from, their geographic area, those kinds of things. So Russell, obviously the uniform is one of the aims and methods of scouting.
Right.
And it's important that you know where a scout's from, particularly at a jamboree where you got all these kids coming together from all over the country. So how did that start at the beginning and where did it evolve to?
Well, at first there were not local councils, there were communities, and communities hosted scout units, small towns, big towns, and so the community was the identifying thing. And so the first type of insignia for identification of where you were from was a community strip that went across under the sleeve, top of the sleeve of the uniform, that would have the name of the local community that you were from. So that came first.
When did those come into the uniform?
Very early. As soon as the uniform shirt began to be the standard as opposed to the coat, the strips came into place. First they were tan and red, tan background, red letters, and then later, over time, they evolved into the ones that we more typically see, which are referred to as red-white strips.
On display here, we've got some states listed and locations. What are these and how did they fit into that program?
Well, after the community part came into being, then quickly behind that came, well, what state are you in? Particularly when scouts began going, as you mentioned earlier, to jamborees and other events. And so strips were created with the abbreviation of the state that they were from. Now, this doesn't follow the abbreviations that we're all familiar with and that we use with the standard U.S. Postal Code, because these much predated the standardization of the United States Postal Code abbreviations for states. So for example, New Mexico, instead of being NM, is actually N.Mex. as its abbreviation, as an example. So these are strips for all of the states of the United States, as well as the territories of the United States, which included CZ, Canal Zone, Guam, PR, Puerto Rico, and VI for Virgin Islands.
So you'd have a community strip and then one of these underneath it.
Correct.
And that would identify your geographic
That's where
location.
you're from.
So where did it go from there? What was the next evolution?
Well, the next step were the council shoulder patches, or CSPs. There was a transitional time when the red-white strips, as local councils began to be more predominant than just communities, then local councils made red-white strips. So there were red-white sort of CSPs, but then what we all wear in our uniforms today, the council shoulder patch or CSP, that came next. 1970s were when those became the standard of uniform wear.
And those have grown in popularity and they've become fundraisers, they've
yeah.
become ways for recognizing events within a council, lots of activities there. But on display here, we also have some city strips that are kind of unique. And how did this come about?
Right, so there are a fair number in the collecting community. There are a lot of people that collect red-white strips, community strips, CSPs, JSPs, jamboree shoulder patches, and those sort of stuff. I'm a collector as well, and one of the things I thought would be kind of cool would be to collect community strips from the red-white era, but only community strips for communities that had quirky and unusual or funny names. And so in this display here at the Summit exhibit, I've got an alphabet of quirky community names. And I think they're pretty cool. Look at what some of them are. I like particularly the idea that there is a town that's named Friendly. I'd like to live in Friendly.
Friendly would be a good town.
That'd be a great place to live.
Yeah.
But would you like to live in Grimmville?
I'm hoping it's named after somebody and not
Well, let's hope so.
the mood.
But on one side, F, G, and H, we've got Friendly, and then we got Grimmville, but then we got Happy.
So that's a
So
good
that
place
brings
to
us
live,
back. Good
potentially,
place
as
to
well.
go. And what about Money? Would you like to live in a community named Money?
I wouldn't mind just living in a normal community.
Well, normal, right, sure. You don't want to be in Loco.
No.
No, let's be
Not
in
at
normal,
all.
not Loco. But Opportunity. I'd love to live in a town called Opportunity.
Or Utopia.
Utopia, of course.
So
there you go.
you pointed out there are 3 up here, and I really want to figure out where they're at. Maybe I'll put them in the comments at the end of this. But Hwai, Xena, Yo, and Zap.
Yeah, I'd like to know that too.
So I'll do the little bit of research necessary and make sure it's a part of this video before we get out of here.
And if you get that done, Harold, then we'll let you live in cool. How about that? Because you'll be cool.
But I can go to disco for a little dancing.
That's true.
That's all the time we have for this time around. Join us again as we continue to learn more about the history of the Boy Scouts of America through the collection of the National Scouting Museum and Artifact of the Week.